Tonight we are going to drift down a river on a golden afternoon in 1862 and listen to a story being told for the very first time. It's a journey into a world that was dreamed up to pass the time on a lazy, hot day, a world of nonsense and logic, of wonder and quiet fear. It's a world that feels like a dream, and honestly, given the rigid rules and scratchy clothes of the Victorian era, you probably wouldn't survive this. The real version anyway. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always nice to know where we're all settling in from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air is thick and warm, smelling of river water and crushed grass from the bank. You are sitting in a small wooden boat, the kind called a skiff, and the gentle rocking is the main rhythm of your world. Rock and dip. Rock and dip. That's the sound of the oars, slicing into the water with a quiet, practiced motion. Above you, the sky is a pale, hazy blue, and the sun is a heavy weight pressing down on everything, making the whole world feel slow and sleepy. This is the 4th of July, 1862, a day that will be remembered, though you don't know that yet. For you, it is just another golden afternoon. Your hands are resting in your lap. They are clean because they are always supposed to be clean. You can feel the slightly stiff fabric of your dress, a dress much too warm for a day like this. It's one of the peculiar traditions of your time. Children are dressed not for comfort, but for correctness. Layers of cotton and maybe even wool tightly fitted, making the summer heat cling to you like a second skin. You shift slightly on the hard wooden seat, the gentle rock of the boat a constant, soothing presence. You can hear the buzz of a lazy bee somewhere near the riverbank, a sound that seems to stretch on forever. There are 5 of you in this little boat. Your 2 sisters, yourself, and 2 adult men. One is a friend, the other is the one telling the story. His name is Charles Dodgson, a man of mathematics from the nearby university, but you just know him as a quiet, slightly awkward friend who is good at inventing games. He rarely looks you in the eye when he speaks, focusing instead on a point just over your shoulder, but his voice is steady and calm. It's a voice made for storytelling. And on a hot, boring day like this, a story is a precious thing. The river is called the Isis, though it's really the same River Thames that flows through London. Here near Oxford it is quieter, greener, and more gentle. The banks are lined with willow trees, their long, thin leaves dipping down to trail in the water as you pass. The gentle rock of the boat, the steady dip of the oars, the low drone of Mr. Dodgson's voice. It's a perfect recipe for sleep. Your eyelids feel heavy. And so, his voice continues, low and even. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. He is making it all up as he goes along. This is the well-known part of the story, the fact of its creation. A shy mathematician and 3 little girls in a boat, inventing a fantasy world to escape the oppressive heat of the day. He's telling a story about a girl with your sister's name, Alice. You watch her as he speaks. She has tucked her feet under her dress, leaning forward, chin in her hands, completely captivated. The story is for her, really. Some historians think the tale was just a random collection of nonsense, a brilliant but meaningless game to entertain bored children. But others believe it was something more, a world crafted specifically for this one particular girl, filled with private jokes and shared understandings that are now lost to time. A mystery that floats on the surface of the story like pollen on the water. You look down at your own hands, noticing the way the sunlight reflects off the slow-moving surface of the river, casting wobbly patterns of light on the wooden sides of the boat. The rhythm of life here is slow, measured by church bells and meal times. Days are long, especially for a child. There are lessons and walks and endless rules of etiquette to remember. Your hands are rough in places from climbing trees when no one is looking, but today they are the hands of a little lady in a boat. Mr. Dodgson's voice weaves on, describing the girl in his story, Alice, and her profound boredom. You can understand that. The feeling of being pinned in place by the heat, by the stillness of the afternoon, by the weight of simply waiting for something to happen. You lean your head back, closing your eyes for just a moment, letting the sounds wash over you. The gentle slosh of water against the hull, the distant call of a moorhen, the soft, rhythmic dipping of the oars. The rhythm of the story. In his tale, the fictional Alice is considering whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies. You smile. It's a perfect child's calculation. The effort versus the reward. You can feel the same laziness in your own bones, a comfortable, heavy sort of peace. And then the story shifts. Suddenly, Mr. Dodgson says, and his voice drops just a little, a hint of theatrical mystery creeping in. A white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. Your eyes open. A rabbit. That's not so unusual. You see them sometimes near the fields by the river. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, he continues as if reading your thoughts, nor did Alice think it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, "Oh dear, I shall be too late." But then comes the strange part. The part where the afternoon tips over into a dream. He describes the rabbit pulling a watch out of its waistcoat pocket. A waistcoat. A pocket watch. Your brow furrows. A rabbit in a gentleman's clothes. That is not right. That is not part of the sleepy, predictable world of a summer afternoon. You are no longer just a girl in a boat. You are now a listener floating between two worlds. The real world of the warm, sun-drenched river and the story world, which is beginning to feel just as real. The gentle rock of the boat feels like the first stirrings of a fall. The drone of his voice is now a thread, pulling you down into the shade of his imagination. In the story, Alice jumps to her feet, full of a sudden energy that you can't quite muster in the real heavy heat. She runs across the field after the rabbit, just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under a hedge. And then, without a moment's thought, the story Alice jumps in after it. You close your eyes again, but this time you're not just sleepy. You're imagining it. The sudden darkness. The feeling of falling. The end of the golden afternoon, and the beginning of something else entirely. The boat continues its steady pace on the water, but in your mind, you are at the edge of that hole, peering into the cool, mysterious dark. Mint slow and deliberate, and plucks a jar from one of the shelves. The label, in elegant, looping script, reads, "Orange Marmalade." It's a familiar, comforting sight from a breakfast table. You open the lid, a small act of hope for a sweet taste in this strange place. But the jar is empty. A small, quiet disappointment. You don't want to just drop it, for fear of it falling on someone's head miles below, so you deftly place it into another cupboard as you drift past. Your hands are clever, your mind is calm. The absurdity of the situation is becoming normal. This is the new rhythm of things. You wonder what your cat Dinah is doing. You hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. You can almost feel her soft fur, hear her gentle purr. It's a small, warm thought in the cool, endless dark. The darkness is soft, not threatening. It is a quiet, waiting sort of dark. You feel sleepy. You begin to think you are dozing off, your head nodding, when the gentle descent finally changes. There is no crash. There is no sudden impact. The falling simply stops. You land with a soft thump, the ground beneath you surprisingly gentle. You have landed on a pile of dry sticks and leaves, which rustle and crackle under your weight. You sit for a moment in the sudden stillness, surprised to be stationary again. The long, slow drift is over. You get to your feet and look up. The rabbit hole is a dark circle far, far above, like a distant starless patch of night sky. Before you is not darkness but a long passage. And you are just in time to see the white rabbit still trotting along, looking exactly as he did on the surface. You hear him mutter to himself as he rounds a corner, "Oh my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting." You don't hesitate. The boredom of the riverbank is a distant memory. Now there is only curiosity. You brush the leaves from your dress, your hands are quick, and you hurry down the passage, a new kind of explorer in a land built of logic and nonsense. The air is cool and smells of damp earth and something else. Something old and strange. The adventure, it seems, has only just begun. The chase is short. The long passage ends abruptly in a great hall, a low, quiet space lit by a row of lamps hanging from the ceiling. All around you the walls are lined with doors, but they are all locked. You try each one, your hand turning the heavy brass knobs, but none will yield. The rhythm of your hope becomes a steady, repeating beat of try and locked. Try and lock. It seems you have simply traded one trap for another. The white rabbit is gone and you are alone. In the middle of the hall stands a small, three-legged table, made entirely of solid glass. It's an elegant, curious piece of furniture, the kind you might see in a wealthy parlor, displaying some single, perfect object. And on this table there is indeed a single object, a tiny golden key. Your heart gives a little leap. A key must have a lock. You try it again on all the great doors, but the key is far too small. It swims in their huge keyholes. The feeling of disappointment is a familiar one. You make one more circuit of the room, your hand trailing along the wall. Behind a heavy curtain you hadn't noticed before, you find a very small door, no more than 15 inches high. You kneel down on the patterned floor, and the tiny golden key fits the lock perfectly. You turn it, and the lock gives a satisfying, quiet click. You open the door and peer through. It opens onto a passage, and beyond that you can see a garden. But not just any garden. It is the loveliest garden you have ever seen. A place of cool fountains, bright flower beds, and deep green lawns. It is a perfect, peaceful world, a miniature paradise. But you cannot reach it. You can't even get your head through the doorway. You close the door and stand up, the ache of longing a small, hard knot in your chest. To see such a beautiful place, but to be forever locked out. You return to the glass table, half hoping another key has appeared. Instead, you find a little bottle. Around its neck is a paper label with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed on it in large letters. It certainly wasn't there before. In your time, it is a well-known fact that children must be careful. Your hands are taught not to touch strange things. The world is full of medicines and cleaning fluids that look like treats, and many cautionary tales are told about children who were not careful. So you do a sensible thing. You turn the bottle over and around, looking for a small label that says poison. There isn't one. So you decide to taste it. The flavor is a wonderful surprise. A mixed taste of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, and roast turkey all at once. It's delicious and you drink it all down. Then comes the most curious feeling. You feel as though you are shutting up like a telescope. And you are. The ceiling seems to race away from you, the glass table rising like a great pedestal. You are shrinking. Your fine dress pools around you in a heap of fabric. Now you are no bigger than a doll, small enough to walk through the little door with ease. But in your haste for the garden, you forgot one crucial thing. The little golden key is still on top of the table, now a vast, clear mountain towering above you. You try to climb one of its legs, but the glass is perfectly smooth and slick. You are tiny and powerless. You sit down on the floor and begin to cry. Some historians and literary scholars see this shrinking and growing as a metaphor for the confusing journey of childhood itself, that feeling of being too small and powerless one moment, and too big and clumsy the next. Your hands are too small to reach, your feet are too big to fit. It's a constant, bewildering state of change. After a while, you notice a small glass box under the table. Inside is a very small cake with the words, "Eat me," marked on it with currants. The rules of this place are simple if strange. Things are very clearly labeled. You eat the cake and you wait. Nothing happens for a moment and then you begin to grow. Not just to your original size but larger. And larger still. Growth is a silent, relentless thing. Your head presses against the ceiling, the lamps feeling hot against your hair. You are a giant now, cramped and folded in the hall, your knees bent. You can now reach the key with ease, but you are too large to use it. The perfect garden is more impossible than ever. And with this final, colossal disappointment, the tears begin to fall again. Not the small, quiet tears of a tiny girl, but the great, hot, heavy tears of a giant. They splash onto the floor, running in rivers, creating a deep pool that covers half the hall. The rhythm of your weeping is the only sound, a storm of sorrow in the silent, locked room. Just then, the white rabbit returns, looking splendidly dressed with a pair of white kid gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. He is muttering to himself about the Duchess. He sees you, a giant head and shoulder filling the doorway, and he gives a little shriek of terror. In his panic, he drops the gloves and fan and scurries away into the darkness. You pick up the fan from the floor. It feels impossibly small in your giant hand. You begin to fan yourself, the air a slight relief. And a strange thing happens. As you wave the fan, you feel yourself shrinking once more. The ceiling recedes. The floor drops away. You realize you are shrinking because of the fan. You drop it hastily just in time. You are small again, doll-sized, and the pool of tears you wept is now a vast body of water, a saltwater sea stretching out before you. And before you can even think what to do next, your foot slips. You stumble and with a small splash, you fall into the deep, salty water. You are adrift in a pool made entirely of your own tears. The water is not cold, but it is deep. You paddle along, your tiny arms and legs working steadily, tasting the salt of your own sorrow on your lips. You are not alone for long. Something is splashing nearby in the pool, and you swim closer, thinking it must be a walrus or a hippopotamus. But it is only a mouse, one that has fallen and just like you. The rhythm of your swimming matches his, a quiet and steady progress through the tear-drenched water. Your first instinct is to speak to it. But what is the proper way to address a mouse? Your mind, trained in the rote memorization of a Victorian schoolroom, cycles through its lessons. You recall a line from your brother's Latin grammar book. A mouse of a mouse to a mouse, oh mouse. It seems like the right sort of thing to say, formal and correct, but the mouse only looks at you with its little black eye and seems to shudder. You realize perhaps that this is not the time for lessons. You swim on together in a slightly awkward silence and soon find you are part of a crowd. The pool is filled with birds and animals, all swept up in the flood, their fur and feathers slick and heavy with water. You all swim for the shore, a strange and bedraggled procession, and finally clamber out onto the bank, dripping and shivering. You are a miserable-looking group. A duck, a dodo, a lory, an eaglet, and several other curious creatures, all gathered together, their feathers drooping, their fur matted. The first order of business, everyone agrees, is to get dry. After a short and rather stuffy debate, full of difficult words you don't quite understand, the dodo stands up. It declares that it has a method that is certain to work. It calls the method a caucus race. The word itself is a peculiar one, borrowed from the world of human politics. Some see this strange, pointless race as a gentle satire of the complex and often nonsensical committees and procedures of government, where a great deal of motion results in very little progress. There is no formal start to the race. The dodo simply marks out a rough sort of circle, and everyone is placed along the course here and there. There is no 1, 2, 3, go. Instead, everyone begins running whenever they feel like it and stops in much the same way. You find yourself jogging in a slow circle, a puffin flapping awkwardly at your side, the mouse scurrying ahead. The rhythm is one of chaos, of individual whims all happening at once. It is a very serious and very silly affair. After about half an hour, you are all quite dry, and the dodo suddenly calls out, "The race is over." Everyone crowds around it, panting and asking, "But who has won?" This is a difficult question, as the race had no beginning, no end, and no rules. The dodo sits for a long time with one finger pressed to its forehead, thinking deeply while everyone else waits in total silence. Finally, it announces its decision. Everybody has won and all must have prizes. The creatures all look at you. You are, after all, the only one with pockets. Your hands search your damp pockets and find a small box of comfits, little sugar candies. Luckily, the salt water hasn't gotten into them. You hand them out solemnly, one for each creature. There is exactly enough. But now, of course, you must have a prize as well. You have nothing else, so the dodo takes the thimble from your pocket and formally presents it back to you. The whole ceremony is conducted with a straight-faced gravity that makes it all the more ridiculous. Now that you are all dry and rewarded, you sit together on the bank, and the mouse declares it is time for its story. It promises to tell you all why it despises cats and dogs. Mine is a long and a sad tale. It begins looking at you. And as it speaks of fury and persecution, you can't help but look at its long, thin, winding tail. In the original book, the words of the mouse's story are printed in the shape of a tail, snaking down the page. Some scholars debate whether this was just a clever visual pun, or a deeper commentary on how stories, and even history itself, can become twisted, confused, and difficult to follow. The mouse's voice is a low, sad drone, but the other birds begin to fidget. The lory complains of being cold, and the eaglet bends its head down to sleep. The story is, you must admit, rather boring. You try to pay attention, but your mind keeps mixing up its tail with its tail. When you innocently remark on this confusion, the mouse is deeply offended. It stops its story and refuses to continue. You wish to make amends to bring the sad little creature back to good humor. And so, trying to be helpful, you begin to speak of your own pet. Dinah is a dear, quiet thing, you say cheerfully. She's a wonderful cat and she's amazing at catching mice. You speak to a suddenly empty bank. At the mere mention of the word cat, every single creature has found an urgent reason to leave. In a flurry of quiet apologies and flimsy excuses, they all disappear, melting back into the strange landscape. The profound silence of being alone returns, a quiet, heavy blanket. You sit by the shore of your own tears, a thimble in your hand, and wonder if you will ever say the right thing in this strange new world. You are alone again and the silence feels heavier this time. You sigh, a small, lonely sound in the vast landscape. You begin to walk with no real destination in mind, your hands tucked into the pockets of your dress. The thimble is still there, a cold, smooth reminder of the strange race you just ran. The rhythm of your footsteps is slow and thoughtful. You are just beginning to wish for some company when you hear a pattering of feet nearby. It is the white rabbit trotting back again, looking anxiously as if he has lost something. He is still muttering to himself. The Duchess, oh my dear paws, oh my fur and whiskers. She'll have me executed as sure as ferrets are ferrets. He seems to be in a state of profound panic. As he gets closer, he catches sight of you and his nervous muttering turns into a sharp, commanding tone. "Why, Marianne?" he calls out. "What are you doing out here? Run home this moment and fetch me a pair of gloves and a fan. Quick now." You are so startled that you don't even think to correct him. In the world you come from, the social order is a powerful, unwritten law. You are a child and he is an adult giving a command. Even though he is a rabbit, the dynamic is deeply familiar. A master speaks and a servant or a child mistaken for one obeys. It was a simple and unmovable fact of life. So, without a word of protest, you turn and run in the direction he is pointing, your mind still trying to catch up with your feet. You are not Marianne, but for now you are playing the part. You soon find a neat little house, with a bright brass plate on the door engraved with the name W. Rabbit. You let yourself in without knocking, feeling like a trespasser but also a person on a mission. The house is tidy, a perfect miniature of a proper home with everything in its place. You find a staircase and hurry up to a small bedroom. And there, on a little dressing table, is a fan and the pair of white kid gloves you were sent to find. Your task is complete. But your eye is caught by another object on the table. It is another little bottle just like the one that made you shrink before. This time there is no label on it. Your hands, driven by a deep curiosity and a small hope, pick it up. You feel so small, so powerless. Perhaps you think this will make you grow large again, back to your proper size where you might feel more in control. You pull out the stopper and put the bottle to your lips. The effect is immediate and much more dramatic than you expected. You begin to grow and you keep growing. Before you have even drunk half the bottle, your head is pressing against the ceiling. The growth continues, a relentless, silent expansion. You drop the bottle and try to get to your feet, but there is no room. You are wedged tightly. You manage to get one arm out of the window and one foot up the chimney. You are a prisoner in the rabbit's house, not just trapped, but a part of the trap itself, your body, the very thing that is blocking every exit. You can hear the rabbit's voice outside, growing frantic. He tries the door, but it won't open. He tries to climb in through the window, but your arm is in the way. His footsteps retreat, and then you hear him talking to someone else, his voice a muffled murmur through the walls. Soon, a small crowd of animals gathered outside. You can hear their strange voices, proposing even stranger solutions. One of them, a lizard named Bill, is sent to climb down the chimney. You wait until you can hear him scrabbling just above you, and then you give a sharp kick with your foot. There is a small yelp and then silence. Their next plan is to burn the house down. You can smell the fear in that thought. But then their strategy changes. You hear a sound like a shower of hail, as a barrage of something rattles against the window panes and the walls of the house. Little sharp noises. You realize they are throwing pebbles at you. But as the pebbles land inside the room, something magical happens. One by one, they transform in midair and land on the floor as tiny, perfect little cakes. It's a strange and mysterious moment. Why cakes? Some have suggested it's another commentary on the unpredictable rules of Wonderland, where violence transforms into nourishment and threats become treats. The world is never just one thing, it is always turning into something else. An idea strikes you. If you eat one of these cakes, perhaps you will shrink. Your hands are clumsy in the tight space, but you manage to get one of the cakes to your mouth. Tastes sweet. And sure enough, you begin to shrink. The room expands around you. The ceiling soars high above. Soon, you are small enough to stand and then small enough to run. You don't waste a moment. You dart out of the door of the little house and run past the assembled crowd of small animals, who make a rush at you but cannot catch you. You run and run, not stopping until you have found your way into the shelter of a thick wood, the voices of the strange creatures fading behind you. You are free, but you are also lost and very, very small. The wood is a confusing, overwhelming place. From your tiny perspective, it is not a wood at all, but a dense and trackless jungle. Blades of grass tower over your head like great green walls. Buttercups are golden suns far above you. The rhythm of your journey now is one of pushing through tangled stems and hiding under the vast, veined canopies of leaves. Your most pressing problem is your size. You are too small to navigate this world, too small to reach for anything. You must find a way to grow. You decide that the answer must lie in eating or drinking something, as it has before. You spend a long time wandering, peering under leaves, searching for anything that looks remotely edible. You find a dewdrop on a leaf and drink from it, but nothing happens. You nibble a tiny piece of a wildflower petal, but it only tastes of greenness. Your hands are small, your progress is slow. You are beginning to feel quite hopeless when you wander into a small, open space. In the center of this clearing grows a large mushroom, standing about as high as your own shoulder. And on the top of this mushroom, a creature is sitting. It is a large, blue caterpillar with its arms folded, quietly smoking a long water pipe, what some call a hookah. He pays no attention to you at all, simply puffing away, sending up lazy rings of pale, sweet-smelling smoke into the still air. The hookah was a strange and exotic object to the people of your time, a symbol of the far-off, mysterious lands of the East. It suggested a kind of slow, philosophical quietness that was the very opposite of your own busy, rule-bound world. You wait patiently for a long time. Finally, the caterpillar takes the hookah from its mouth and yawns and speaks. Its voice is languid and sleepy. "Who," it says, "are you?" It is not a simple question. You've been asked your name 1,000 times, but this feels different. You try to answer. "I hardly know, sir, just at present. You say shyly. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then. The caterpillar just stares at you, puffing its smoke. It seems unimpressed. Some scholars suggest this isn't just a simple question, but a reflection of a core anxiety of your era. In a world changing so quickly, with new machines and new scientific ideas appearing every day, the old certain sense of who you were was beginning to feel fragile. The conversation is slow and deeply unsatisfying. The caterpillar asks you to explain yourself, and when you can't, it tells you to keep your temper. It asks you what size you want to be, and seems to find your desire to be a little larger quite contemptible. Every answer you give is met with a slow puff of smoke and another confusing question. Finally, it commands you to recite a poem. The poem you are supposed to know is, "You Are Old, Father William," a rather preachy and moralizing piece about respecting your elders. You stand up straight, put your hands behind your back as you've been taught, and begin. But the words that come out of your mouth are not the right words at all. They have been twisted into a strange, nonsensical version where the old man stands on his head and balances an eel on his nose. It is a complete perversion of the respectable original. Your own mind, it seems, is no longer a reliable place. The caterpillar listens without comment. When you are finished, it simply says, "That is not said right." And then it falls silent again for several minutes. You feel you have failed some strange and important test. You have waited and waited, and you have learned nothing. You turn to leave the clearing more confused than ever. "Come back," the caterpillar calls after you. "I have something important to say." You turn back, a flicker of hope rising in you. Perhaps now, finally, you will get a useful piece of advice. You wait. The caterpillar smokes its hookah for another long minute. Then it takes the pipe from its mouth and says, "One side will make you grow taller, and the other side will make you grow shorter." Then it disappears into the grass, gone as if it were never there. You are left alone with the mushroom. One side will make you taller, the other shorter. But the mushroom is perfectly round. Which side is which? You stand on your tiptoes and stretch your arms as far as they can go around the smooth, curved edge. Your hands are small but strong. You break off a piece from the very edge with your left hand, and another piece from the opposite edge with your right. You now hold two potent pieces of magic, one in each hand. The power to control your own size is finally yours. The only question is, which is which? You stand there for a moment, holding the two pieces of mushroom, a choice in each hand. Power and peril. You nibble a tiny crumb from the piece in your right hand. The result is instant and alarming. Your chin bangs hard against your feet. You have shrunk so fast and so completely that you can barely move. You are a tangled heap of limbs and fabric on the forest floor. Panic, sharp and cold, rises in your throat. Your hands scrabble for the other piece, the one you hold in your left hand. You manage to get it to your mouth and begin to eat. Your feet and chin separate. The ground rushes away. You are growing, but you have lost all control. You shoot upwards, your head bursting through the canopy of the forest into the bright, open sky. Below you, the trees look like a green, bumpy carpet. Your neck has stretched into a long, thin, flexible stalk. You can bend it about like the stem of a flower. You are a giant again, but a strange, distorted one. Your newfound height is immediately a problem. A pigeon, seeing your snake-like head peering through the leaves near her nest, begins to attack you furiously, shrieking that you are a serpent. You try to explain that you are a little girl, but she is not convinced. It is a long and very silly argument. Eventually, you realize you still hold the two pieces of mushroom. Carefully, patiently, you begin to experiment. A nibble of one, a nibble of the other. You shrink and grow, grow and shrink, the world zooming in and out of focus. The rhythm is one of practice, of trial and error, like learning a difficult new skill. Your hands are clever. After several minutes of careful adjustment, you manage to bring yourself back to your usual height. You feel normal again, and the relief is a quiet, steadying comfort. Now that you are the right size, you feel a renewed sense of confidence. You walk on through the woods and soon come upon a small house, with a thatched roof and two little chimneys shaped like ears. It looks like a toy house, something from a fairy story. As you get closer, however, you realize something is very wrong. A terrible noise is coming from inside. A constant, high-pitched howling, punctuated by loud, violent crashes and a chorus of explosive sneezes. You push the door open and step inside. The scene is one of pure, astonishing chaos. The air is so thick with pepper that you begin to sneeze the moment you enter. In the center of the room, which appears to be a kitchen, sits a duchess on a three-legged stool holding a baby. The baby is the source of the howling. Over by the fire, a cook is stirring a great cauldron of soup, from which the peppery smell must be coming. And on the hearth, a large cat is lying, grinning from ear to ear. The phrase, "to grin like a Cheshire Cat," was a common saying in your time, but you have never seen it demonstrated so literally. The cook seems to be in a terrible temper. Without warning, she begins grabbing things, fire irons, plates, saucepans, and throwing them at the Duchess and the howling baby. The Duchess takes no notice at all, even when a heavy saucepan flies past her head. The whole scene is a storm of noise and violence, yet it is treated as perfectly normal. This kind of casual cruelty, especially toward a child, taps into a hidden anxiety of your era. While children were often idealized, some parenting theories were harsh, focused on discipline and severity above all else. This kitchen is a nightmare parody of a home without warmth or care. The Duchess finally notices you and begins to speak in a series of short, sharp barks. She offers you a string of nonsensical morals. "If everybody minded their own business," she grunts, "the world would go round a deal faster than it does." Abruptly, she stands up. "I must go and get ready to play croquet with the Queen," she announces, and without any more warning, she flings the baby at you. You just manage to catch it. The cook throws one last frying pan after the Duchess as she leaves, but it misses. You are left holding the screaming, squirming baby. You carry it out of the chaotic, peppery house into the cool, fresh air of the forest. As you walk, the baby continues to make strange, grunting noises, and it twists itself in your arms. You look down at its face and you realize with a shock that it is changing. Its nose is becoming a snout, its eyes are becoming small and beady. Its whole body is transforming. Why a pig? Scholars have long debated this strange transformation. Some believe it's a simple moral lesson about what happens to ugly, ill-tempered children. Others see it as a darker commentary on humanity's animalistic nature, a theme that fascinated the thinkers of your time. For you, it is simply a strange and slightly sad fact. You are holding a pig. You set the little creature down on the ground, and it trots away quietly into the woods. You stand for a moment watching it go, feeling a profound sense of bewilderment. A soft sound above you makes you look up. The Cheshire Cat is sitting on the bough of a tree, grinning down at you. "Well," it says. The grin seems to hang in the air for a moment after the rest of the cat has faded away, a disembodied, questioning smile. The Cheshire Cat's grin hangs in the air, a strangely comforting sight in the lonely woods. You ask what sort of people live around here. In a slow, lazy voice, the cat explains that to the right lives a hatter, and to the left lives a March hare. "They're both mad," it adds cheerfully. You remark that you don't want to go among mad people. The cat's grin seems to widen. "Oh, you can't help that," it says. "We're all mad here." "I'm mad." "You're mad." You don't feel mad, but after the events of the day, you can't be entirely sure. You ask the cat how it knows you're mad. "You must be," it says, "or you wouldn't have come here." And with that, it vanishes slowly, starting with the tail and ending with the grin, which lingers for a moment after the rest of it has gone. The rhythm of this place is one of sudden appearances and slow, magical disappearances. You decide to visit the March hare. It is May, so perhaps he won't be quite as mad as he was in March. You walk on through the woods and soon see his house. It is a house with chimneys shaped like long ears and a roof thatched with fur. In front of the house, under a large tree, a long table is set for tea. It is a familiar, civilized scene, a picture of quiet English country life. But as you get closer, you see that the three creatures having tea are anything but quiet or civilized. They are the March hare, the hatter, and a dormouse who is fast asleep. Wedged between the other two is a sort of cushion. They see you approaching and immediately begin to shout, "No room! No room!" even though the table is very long and there are many empty chairs. You ignore them, walk up to the table and sit down in a large armchair at one end. Their welcome is not a warm one. They immediately begin to criticize your manners and your hair. The hatter is a twitchy, nervous fellow, with a large hat on his head from which a price tag still dangles. The phrase, "mad as a hatter," was a common one in your day. It came from a sad, well-known fact. Many hat makers of the time used mercury to make the felt for their hats, and the constant exposure to the toxic fumes caused a sickness of the nerves, making them shy, irritable, and shaky. The hatter's strange energy seems to come from this place of real-world melancholy. He looks at you with his bright, anxious eyes and asks a riddle. Why is a raven like a writing desk? You are pleased. You enjoy riddles. You think about it for a while as the others offer nonsensical remarks. The conversation flows in a strange, looping pattern, full of interruptions and non sequiturs. You soon notice something very odd about the tea service. While the table is set for many, the three of them are all crowded together at one corner. The hatter looks at his watch, a large pocket watch, and sighs. "What day of the month is it?" he asks you. He explains that his watch tells the day of the month, but not the time of day. He dips it into his teacup, looks at it sadly, and remarks that it was the best butter that went into the works. It turns out that it is always 6 o'clock here. Always tea time. The hatter explains that he had a quarrel with time last March, and ever since, time has refused to do a thing for him. He is frozen at the tea hour. Some have read this scene, where time is literally frozen at a single moment, as a reflection of your era's own complicated and changing relationship with the clock. With the rise of factories and railways, standardized time had become a new kind of tyrant, governing life with a rigid, unforgiving rhythm. This mad tea party is a place that has escaped that tyranny, but at the cost of being stuck forever in a single repeating moment. The rhythm of the party is one of endless, circular repetition. Whenever they want a clean cup, they don't wash up. They all just move one place down the table. They try to wake the dormouse to tell a story, pouring hot tea on its nose. It begins a sleepy, rambling tale about three little sisters who lived at the bottom of a treacle well, a story that makes no sense at all. You grow tired of the endless, pointless loop. You finally ask the Hatter if he has guessed the answer to his own riddle. "No," he says cheerfully. "I haven't the slightest idea. This is the final straw. You have been treated rudely, offered wine that doesn't exist, and asked a riddle with no answer. You stand up in disgust. It's the stupidest tea party I was ever at in all my life," you declare, and you walk away. You look back once and see the Hare and the Hatter trying to stuff the sleeping dormouse into the teapot. They do not notice you are gone. You walk away from the endless, broken moment and back into the quiet of the woods, alone once more. You walk away from the chaotic, looping time of the tea party, seeking the quiet order of the woods once more. After a while, you come across a large tree with a door leading right into its trunk. This is something new. You have fallen down a hole and grown and shrunk, but you have not yet walked through a door in a tree. You open it and step through. You find yourself standing once again in the great hall of locked doors. There is the glass table and there is the golden key still sitting on top of it. But this time you are not helpless. You have the secret of the mushroom. Your hands, now practiced, retrieve the small pieces from your pocket. You nibble carefully, shrinking just enough to be able to pick up the key, and then you unlock the little door that leads to the garden. You take another bite of mushroom, growing just enough to be able to walk comfortably, and you step through the doorway at last. You are finally in the beautiful garden. The disappointment you felt when you were too large to enter is a distant memory. The air here is cool and sweet, smelling of roses and damp earth. Bright flower beds are laid out in intricate patterns, and the sound of a bubbling fountain is a soft, constant music. The rhythm of this place feels peaceful, orderly. But you soon learn that this order is a fragile, fearful thing. You see 3 gardeners who look strangely flat, like they are cut from cardboard. They are shaped like playing cards, the 2, 5, and 7 of spades. They are clustered around a large white rose bush, busily painting the flowers red. They explain in hushed, nervous voices that they have planted a white rose tree where the Queen of Hearts wanted a red one. To save themselves from her anger, they are trying to cover up their mistake before she arrives. Just then you hear the sound of many footsteps. A grand procession is approaching. First come 10 soldiers shaped like clubs, then 10 courtiers decorated with diamonds. After them come the royal children, dressed as little hearts, followed by a host of guests, kings and queens of other suits. Then comes the Knave of Hearts, carrying the king's crown on a velvet cushion. And last of all, in this strange and splendid parade, come the King and Queen of Hearts. The Queen is a formidable figure, her face stern and her voice loud. She immediately spots the half-painted roses. Her face turns purple with rage. "Off with their heads!" she shrieks, pointing a trembling finger at the terrified gardeners. It is a terrible, absolute command. As the soldiers drag the gardeners away, you have a quick idea and hide the 3 of them in a large nearby flower pot. The Queen, her momentary fury spent, invites you to play a game of croquet. Croquet was a wildly popular game in your time, a civilized pastime for a summer afternoon, played on smooth green lawns. It was a game of skill and polite competition, one of the few sports where ladies and gentlemen could compete together. The Queen's version, however, is very different. The croquet ground is a lumpy, uneven field of grass. For croquet balls, they use live hedgehogs, which have a difficult habit of uncurling themselves and walking away. For mallets, they use live flamingos, which you are meant to hold by the legs and swing. This is made very difficult by the fact that they keep twisting their long necks around to look at you. And for the arches, they use the card soldiers who have to bend over and stand on their hands and feet. The soldiers also have a tendency to get up and move to another part of the ground whenever they feel like it. The game is pure chaos. Everyone plays at once without waiting for their turn, and they are constantly arguing. Is she just a caricature of a spoiled tyrant, or something more? Some historians see in the Queen a reflection of the Victorian fear of absolute, irrational authority, perhaps even a coded satire of Queen Victoria herself, who was known for her stern and unyielding public persona. The Queen of Hearts is power without reason, anger without cause. She stomps about the ground, shouting, "Off with his head," about once a minute, for any reason at all: a missed shot, a wandering hedgehog, an uncooperative flamingo. In the midst of all this noise and confusion, you look up and see a familiar grin forming in the thin air. It is the Cheshire Cat. It asks you how you are enjoying the game. The King of Hearts is deeply perplexed by the sight of a cat's head with no body. He asks the Queen what to do about it, and she, true to form, declares that it should have its head chopped off. This begins a long and very foolish argument between the Queen, the King, and the executioner about whether it is possible to behead something that doesn't have a body to behead it from. The croquet game has stopped entirely. Everyone is gathered around, offering their opinion on the matter. The Queen's voice grows louder and louder. The sound of her fury fills the beautiful garden, a harsh and grating noise that spoils all the peace. The game, like everything else in this world, has collapsed into a nonsensical argument. The argument about the Cheshire Cat's head rages on, a storm of royal fury and logical nonsense. The Queen, seeing that no one is listening to her anymore, finally gives up in disgust. She turns to you, her face still flushed with anger. "Come on," she says. "It's time you met the Mock Turtle. You are not given a choice. You are simply expected to follow, and so you do, leaving the chaotic croquet game and the half-vanished cat behind you." The Queen leads you across the garden to a spot where a strange creature is lying asleep in the sun. It has the body of a lion and the head and wings of a great eagle. It is a griffin, a beast from the pages of an old book of mythology. The Queen prods it with her foot. "Get up, lazy thing," she commands, "and take this young lady to see the Mock Turtle and to hear his history. I must go back and see after some executions I have ordered." And with that, she stalks off, her footsteps heavy on the gravel path. The griffin sits up and rubs its eyes. It looks at you, then yawns. "It's all her fancy, that," it says in a rough, common-sounding voice. "They never executed anybody, you know. Come on." The frantic, dangerous energy of the Queen's court immediately fades, replaced by the griffin's sleepy, cynical calm. The rhythm of your journey slows down, the tension easing out of the air. It leads you over a rocky ledge by the edge of a great, gray sea. The only sounds are the gentle, rhythmic wash of the waves against the shore and the lonely cry of a seabird far away. In the distance you can see a shape sitting on a rock, looking out over the water. As you get closer, you can see what it is, and you can hear it sighing as if its heart would break. It is the Mock Turtle. It has the large, sad eyes and the head of a calf, but the body and flippers of a turtle, complete with a shell. It is a living, breathing contradiction, and it is weeping. The source of this strange creature lies in a popular dish from your era. Real green turtle soup was a great delicacy, a luxury for the very rich. To imitate it, Victorian cooks invented mock turtle soup, a clever and much cheaper substitute made from a calf's head. This sad, weeping creature is the living embodiment of that recipe, a being whose very existence is based on being an imitation of something else. No wonder he is so sad. The griffin introduces you, and the mock turtle looks at you with its large, tear-filled eyes. It tries to speak, but its voice is choked with sobs. The two of you sit down on the rock beside it and wait patiently for it to compose itself. The air smells of salt and seaweed. Once, the mock turtle says at last in a deep, hollow voice, "I was a real turtle." He begins to tell you the story of his life, a story of his time at school at the bottom of the sea. He speaks with a profound and endless nostalgia, as if recalling a lost golden age. This feeling of sadness for a past that can never be reclaimed is a powerful theme from your time. Some scholars suggest that the mock turtle's weeping isn't just for his own lost schooling, but represents a broader cultural nostalgia, a sadness for a simpler world that was vanishing under the pressures of modern life. He tells you his master was an old sea turtle named Tortoise. Why was he called Tortoise if he was a turtle, you ask? We called him Tortoise because he taught us, the mock turtle replies with a sob. He goes on to list the subjects he took. Reeling and writhing, of course, to begin with, he says, and then the different branches of arithmetic, ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision. The list goes on, a series of wonderful silly puns on the standard rigid curriculum of a Victorian schoolchild. Mystery, seaography, drawing, stretching, and fainting in coils. It is a gentle mockery of an education system that often felt pointless and strange to the children who endured it. He sighs deeply after every sentence, and the griffin has to nudge him constantly to get on with his story. The rhythm of his speech is slow, broken by quiet sobs and long, watery sighs. It is a sound that blends perfectly with the gentle lapping of the waves on the shore. You sit between the two strange creatures, a griffin and a being born from a recipe, and you listen to his sad, sleepy story of a life that never really was under the vast, quiet sky. The mock turtle's sobs finally begin to subside, replaced by a long, watery sigh of recollection. "You want to hear about the games?" he asks, his voice a little brighter. The griffin gives a small, encouraging grunt. "Aye, that's the stuff," it says. "Tell her about the fun." The mock turtle turns his big, sad calf's eyes to you. "We used to play a game," he says, a flicker of enthusiasm in his voice, "with the lobsters. We called it the lobster quadrille. You have, of course, heard of the quadrille. It is a proper and very popular dance in your world, a complicated pattern of steps and figures performed by 4 couples in a square. Your hands know the feeling of a dance card. Your ears know the sound of a string quartet striking up the tune. Learning the quadrille is part of a young lady's education, a key piece of the intricate social machinery that governs polite society. It is a dance of rules, of etiquette, of quiet, formal grace. The griffin and the mock turtle's version is, you suspect, going to be rather different. "We should show her," the griffin cries, leaping to its feet. "It's a grand dance. Come, let's try the first figure." The mock turtle agrees, and they begin to clear a space on the rocky shore, shooing away a few stray crabs. The rhythm of their movements is now energetic, full of a shared, remembered joy. They explain that first, you must line up in 2 rows along the seashore with the lobsters as your partners. Of course, the griffin interrupts, there are no lobsters here, so we will have to imagine them. They stand side by side, preparing to demonstrate. Then the mock turtle, in a voice that is still thick with sadness but now has a strong singing rhythm, begins the song for the dance. "Will you walk a little faster?" said a whiting to a snail. "There's a porpoise close behind us and he's treading on my tail." See how eagerly the lobsters and the turtles all advance. They are waiting on the shingle. "Will you come and join the dance?" As he sings, he and the griffin begin to move. They take 2 slow steps forward. They each advance toward an imaginary lobster, and then with a strange little hop, they change lobsters and return to their places. It is a clumsy, heartfelt performance on the uneven rock. The song itself is charming, a perfect little piece of nonsense verse. And yet, some literary critics have pointed out the slightly sinister undertone hidden within its cheerful rhythm. The whiting is eagerly luring the snail into a dance on the shore, a place where they are both vulnerable, a dance that will likely end with them becoming someone's dinner. It's a little dark joke, a commentary on predators and prey, wrapped in the sweetness of a nursery rhyme. The dance gets more complicated. The next step, they explain, is to throw your lobster. "You throw them," the mock turtle sings, his voice rising, "as far out to sea as you can." He and the griffin make a great show of flinging their imaginary partners into the waves. Then they swim after them, which they demonstrate with a few splashing, swimming motions in the air. Then they turn a somersault in the sea, and return to shore to find new lobsters and begin all over again. The griffin capers about, its lion's paws thumping on the rock, its eagle's wings flapping for balance. The mock turtle, despite his heavy shell, hops and skips with surprising agility. Their dance is a beautiful, ridiculous thing, a memory of joy brought to life for a moment on this lonely shore. The sound of the mock turtle's sad, beautiful singing voice, and the steady, endless whisper of the waves washing up on the rocks, are the only music. You sit and watch them, a solitary audience for this strange and wonderful performance. The song and the dance finally come to an end. The 2 creatures are out of breath, but they are smiling. The deep melancholy that surrounded the mock turtle has lifted, replaced by the happy exhaustion of a fond memory relived. The air is still, and for a moment the only sound is the sea. And then from far away, a cry is heard floating on the wind. The trial's beginning. The griffin stops panting and listens. "Come on," it says, taking you by the hand. "It's the queen. She'll want us at the trial." The moment of peaceful, nostalgic joy is broken. You are being hurried away once more, pulled back into the world of the queen and her strange, angry rules. "Come on." The griffin repeats and begins to run. You hurry along at its side, a little out of breath, leaving the sad, singing mock turtle behind on the shore. "What trial is it?" you ask, but the griffin only says, you'll see," in a puffing, hurried voice. The gentle, melancholic rhythm of the seashore is gone, replaced by a feeling of urgent summons. You run until you come to the castle, and the griffin leads you through a series of grand archways, right into the courtroom itself. The trial is already in session. The king and queen of hearts are seated on a grand throne, with a great crowd assembled before them, a strange mix of birds, beasts, and the entire pack of playing cards. The king is acting as the judge, and to make this clear, he is wearing a large, powdered wig underneath his golden crown, a combination that looks both grand and deeply silly. In the center of the room, standing before the throne with a soldier on either side to guard him, is the Knave of Hearts. He is in chains and he looks pale and nervous. On a table nearby sits a large dish of what you assume are the tarts in question. Your eyes are drawn to the jury box. A jury, is supposed to be made up of 12 good and honest men. This jury is made up of 12 small, bewildered-looking creatures, including a lizard and a frog. They are all busily writing things down on their slates, which the Griffin whispers is a very stupid thing to do, as the trial has not even started yet. This whole affair, with its grand setting and strange cast of characters, feels less like a pursuit of justice and more like a piece of theater. In your own time, high-profile court cases were a form of public entertainment. Newspapers would report every dramatic twist and turn, and the public would follow along as if it were a thrilling story. This trial, with its royal judge and bumbling jury, feels like a parody of that very spectacle, where the performance of law is more important than the law itself. The White Rabbit, acting as the court herald, stands up. He blows a long, shrill blast on his trumpet, then unrolls a parchment scroll and reads the accusation in a high, squeaky voice. The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts, all on a summer day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts and took them quite away. Consider your verdict, the king says to the jury the moment the rabbit finishes reading. He is immediately corrected by the rabbit, who points out, quite reasonably, that there is a great deal to be done before a verdict can be considered. The first witness is called the Hatter. He shuffles to the front of the court, still holding a teacup in one hand and a piece of bread and butter in the other. He looks terrified of the Queen, and keeps nervously nibbling his bread. The king questions him, but the Hatter's evidence is a stream of pure, anxious nonsense about swimming with the dormouse and a treacle well. His testimony offers nothing of substance. Yet the king and queen listen to it as if it contains some deep, hidden meaning. The question of what constitutes evidence is at the heart of this scene. Some legal historians have noted that this parody reflects a real debate from the 19th century about legal standards. In an age before modern forensics, evidence in court could often be flimsy, circumstantial, or based entirely on the supposed character of a witness. Justice could be a very uncertain thing, built on a foundation of nonsense not so different from the Hatter's testimony. The Hatter grows more and more flustered under the Queen's glare, and is finally dismissed. He runs from the court so quickly he doesn't even stop to put his shoes back on. "And just take his head off outside," the Queen adds to one of the officers, but the Hatter is already gone. The White Rabbit calls the next witness. It is the Duchess's cook, the one from the peppery kitchen. She walks to the witness stand holding the very thing that defines her, a large pepper pot. The moment she enters the courtroom, a change comes over the proceedings. The dormouse, who is on the jury, sneezes loudly. A guinea pig sneezes. The lizard sneezes. One by one, like a chain reaction, nearly everyone in the courtroom begins to sneeze from the invisible cloud of pepper emanating from the cook. The solemn, foolish rhythm of the trial is about to be completely overwhelmed by a chorus of explosive, uncontrollable sneezes. The courtroom is a symphony of sneezes. The air is thick with the invisible dust of pepper, a lingering remnant of the cook's brief and unhelpful testimony. She is dismissed from the stand, and a few of the guinea pigs who had been suppressed during the chaos are cheered for their return to order. The gentle, stuffy rhythm of the court slowly reasserts itself. You watch from the side, a silent observer, feeling as though you are watching a play. The White Rabbit, who has been looking over his list of witnesses, suddenly calls out your name in his high, shrill voice. "Alice." You are so surprised that you leap to your feet. In your haste, you completely forget that you have been slowly growing for some time. The corner of your apron catches the edge of the jury box, and with a great clatter you tip it over. The 12 little jurors are sent tumbling out, sprawling in a helpless, kicking heap on the floor. The whole court is in an uproar for a moment, but your first thought is for the jurors. They look like a collection of spilled toys, like the goldfish from a bowl that has been knocked over. You begin to pick them up and put them back in their places as quickly as you can, conscious of the king's eyes on you. One of them, the little lizard, you accidentally put back upside down, and he lies there waving his tail about sadly, unable to move until you correct him. This small act of clumsy power is a turning point. You are no longer just a small, lost visitor. You are a giant in their world. You walk to the witness stand. With every step, you can feel that curious, familiar sensation of getting larger. The ceiling is no longer so very far away. Your shoulders feel broader. You are not frightened this time. The growth feels like a return to yourself, a reclaiming of your proper place in the world. The king peers at you from his throne. "What do you know about this business?" he asks. "Nothing," you say. Your voice is clear and steady. In a real Victorian courtroom, the testimony of a child was a delicate thing, treated as either a source of pure, uncorrupted truth or the ramblings of a confused innocent. A child was expected to be timid, respectful, and perhaps a little frightened. Your simple, direct confidence is a shock to the system. "Nothing whatever?" the king persists. "Nothing whatever," you confirm. The king declares this to be very important evidence. He is about to have the jury write it down when the white rabbit interrupts, producing a new piece of evidence. It is a piece of paper, a letter which he says they found on the prisoner. The paper contains a set of verses. The king orders the rabbit to read them. The poem is a masterpiece of nonsense, full of pronouns that refer to no one and actions that mean nothing. It begins, "They told me you had been to her and mentioned me to him," and it only grows more confusing from there. When the rabbit is finished, a deep silence falls over the court. "That's the most important piece of evidence we've heard yet," the king says, rubbing his hands. "So let the jury." But you interrupt him. Your voice feels stronger now, taller. "If any of them can explain it," you say, "I'll give him 6 pence. I don't believe there's an atom of meaning in it." The jury members all busily write down, "She doesn't believe there's an atom of meaning in it," on their slates. The desperate attempt to find meaning in this meaningless poem is the trial's final, absurd act. Legal scholars sometimes see this as a satire of a very specific academic habit: the tendency to overinterpret, to find deep and complex evidence where none exists. The king, determined to prove the knave's guilt, twists the nonsensical words, finding confessions and secrets in every line. The queen agrees. "It's a clear confession," she declares. "It proves nothing of the sort," you say loudly. "You don't even know what it's about." The king, flustered by your defiance, falls back on the law. "Rule 42, he says gravely. "All persons more than a mile high leave the court." Everyone looks at you. You feel the truth of your own size, your own power. "I'm not a mile high," you say. "You are," says the king. "Nearly 2 miles high," adds the queen. "Well, I shan't go at any rate," you say, your voice ringing with a newfound certainty. "Besides, that's not a regular rule. You invented it just now." The king turns pale. A silence falls over the court. You have not just questioned the evidence, you have questioned the law itself and the king who made it. The final confrontation is now inevitable. The king turns from pale to white. For a moment he can only open and close his mouth, a fish out of water. He looks to the queen for help. She, however, is not pale. She is a deep, furious purple. "Consider your verdict," she shrieks at the jury, her voice shaking with rage. But before the jury can even pick up their slates, the king, in a low, trembling voice, says to you, "It's a very old rule. It ought to be number one then," you reply firmly. You are not afraid of him. You are not afraid of any of them. The dream is losing its power over you. The king closes his notebook with a snap. "Sentence first," he begins, but the queen cuts him off. "Verdict afterwards," she declares. This is the final, perfect summary of their foolish, unjust world. "Stuff and nonsense," you say, your voice ringing out in the suddenly silent court. "The idea of having the sentence first." "Hold your tongue," screams the queen. "I will not," you reply, your own voice rising to meet hers. The queen's face is now almost black with fury. She has run out of arguments, out of rules, out of everything but her one terrible solution. She turns to the pack of cards. "Off with her head," she screams, pointing a shaking finger directly at you. But the fear is gone. You look at the soldiers taking a hesitant step forward. You look at the trembling king and the shrieking queen. You look at the whole silly, splendid, nonsensical assembly, and a profound clarity washes over you. Some historians see this moment as a powerful allegory for personal growth, the transition from the passive obedience of childhood to the rational defiance of an emerging adult. By seeing the world for what it is, you are choosing reason over fantasy, reality over tyranny. You laugh. You put your hands on your hips, feeling your own solid strength, your own sensible height. "Who cares for you?" you say, your voice full of a power you didn't know you had. "You're nothing but a pack of cards." The words hang in the air for a second. And then the world breaks. There is a rushing sound, like the wind tearing through a forest of dry leaves. The entire pack of cards, all 52 of them, rises up into the air. They are no longer soldiers or gardeners or courtiers. They are just what you said they were. Flat, stiff pieces of painted cardboard. The king, the queen, the knave, the whole court, they all come unstuck from their roles, swirling together in a great, chaotic gyre. The rhythm of the world dissolves. The steady, dreamlike pace is gone, replaced by a frantic, fluttering storm. The cards fly upwards, circling for a moment like a flock of strange, rectangular birds, and then they turn and they come flying down, aimed directly at you. It is a silent, sharp-edged attack. This is the moment of waking, the point where the dreamer's own logic finally rebels against the beautiful nonsense it has created. The Victorians were fascinated by the fragile boundary between the dreaming mind and the real world. This collapse is the reassertion of that boundary. Your common sense is a weapon, and it is shattering the dream around you. You give a little scream, not so much of fear, but of pure, instinctual defiance. You try to beat them away, your hands flailing against the onslaught. The queen is a flash of red and white, the knave a blur of blue. Their sharp corners prick at your face and hands. The air is filled with the sound of whirring, flapping cardboard. You are at the very bottom of a house of cards as it tumbles down upon you. You close your eyes tightly against the storm, feeling the world dissolve into 1,000 fluttering pieces. You lie with your eyes shut, feeling the fluttering storm of cards settle upon your face. But the sharp corners are gone. The hard, flat paper has turned into something soft and dry. The rushing sound in your ears is fading, replaced by the gentle rustle of wind through leaves. You feel a hand, warm and familiar, gently brushing your cheek. "Wake up, dear," a soft voice says. "Why, what a long sleep you've had." Your eyes flutter open. For a moment, the world is a blurry haze of green and gold. The frantic, swirling motion of the dream gives way to a profound and heavy stillness. You are lying on the riverbank, your head resting comfortably in your sister's lap. The things you thought were playing cards scratching at your face were just some leaves from the tree above, which had fluttered down onto you as you slept. You sit up, blinking in the warm, golden light of the late afternoon. The world is exactly as it was before. There is the slow-moving river, the green banks, the hazy blue sky. The rhythm of the real world returns, a slow and gentle beat. The air is warm and smells of grass. The chaotic courtroom, the angry queen, the whole impossible adventure was all a dream. "Oh, I've had such a curious dream," you say, and you begin to tell your sister everything you can remember. You tell her of the white rabbit with his pocket watch, of the pool of tears and the caucus race. You describe the mad tea party, the Cheshire Cat, and the Queen's bizarre croquet game. You tell her about the sad mock turtle and the lobster quadrille, and the final foolish trial where you were nothing but a pack of cards. Your sister listens patiently, smiling gently at your strange and wonderful tale. She tells you that you have been murmuring these things in your sleep, your hands twitching as if you were trying to catch something. She kisses your forehead and says it's time to run home for tea. The day is ending. You get up and run off, full of the strange energy of the dream, leaving your sister sitting under the tree, watching the sun begin to set over the river. And in the quiet of the evening, she closes her own eyes, and begins to dream a little dream of her own. This gentle, sentimental view of childhood, as a precious and imaginative time to be cherished before the dullness of adult life sets in, was a feeling very close to the heart of your era. She pictures you, in the years to come, grown into a woman, but she hopes that you will keep the simple and loving heart of your childhood. She imagines you gathering your own children around you, telling them the story of this strange and magical wonderland, making their eyes bright and eager with tales of a long-ago dream. Was it just a dream? For more than a century, people have wondered about the story's hidden meanings, seeing in it everything from a satire on academia to a complex mathematical puzzle. But perhaps, as your sister on the riverbank seems to understand, its truest meaning is not in the answer to a riddle or the solution to a puzzle. Perhaps its meaning is simply in the wonder of the journey itself. A story dreamed up to pass a sleepy golden afternoon, a perfect, nonsensical world to get lost in, just before it's time to go home for tea. And so, our journey through the strange and winding pathways of a golden afternoon dream comes to a soft and quiet close. The story that was born on a sleepy river has returned to the riverbank, leaving behind only the faintest echo of a hurried white rabbit and the lingering image of a disembodied grin. All of the frantic energy, the nonsensical questions and the chaotic games have dissolved back into the stillness from which they came, leaving nothing behind but a feeling of gentle, peaceful exhaustion. The characters have all played their parts, the mad tea party is finally over, and the Queen's loud voice has faded into a distant memory, as quiet now as the whisper of the evening breeze. There are no more riddles to solve, no more doors to unlock, and no more mysterious potions to drink. The adventure is complete, and all that is left is for you to let it drift away, allowing the current of your own deep and quiet thoughts to carry you now toward the peaceful shore of sleep. Let the gentle rhythm of your own breathing be the only sound you hear, a soft and steady wave that washes away the last remnants of the day. There is nothing left to do and nowhere left to go, but deeper and deeper into the comfort of this moment. You are safe here in the quiet darkness, and a long and restful night awaits. Just ease into it now and let go.
you.